This is Annie Kid Wolf, and you're watching This Is Punk Rock of Punk Globe Magazine.
1, 2, 3, 4. Punk rock, punk rock, punk rock. 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 It is brain surgery. Punk rock, punk rock, punk rock. 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 It is brain surgery. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's your brain surgery.
In the morning, I walk beneath the shining sun. My steps reverberate and beat with the mothers of humanity. Those murmurs fill my ears, but the voice of God I cannot hear as I walk along that busy street. Although there's nothing left to see, the streaks of the tears upon my cheeks are life, life.
A face for every double take.
Life, life.
Original faith.
Life, life.
And the lies you tell to me.
Life, life.
Reasonable maximally.
Open your hand to me. In your palm I can read
It's weird being a Bob.
Hello, John Wright. Welcome to This is Punk Rock. This is wonderful to have you here. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I love the new stuff, the Dead Bob stuff. Fantastic. So,
Well, thanks, Annie. Thanks for inviting me on.
yeah, it's great. This is so good. It's been a fun series and really good to get to know people and get to see, hear about your experience and how punk rock changed you or when you first heard it or all of that kind of stuff that goes around it. And so, we thought this would be a little fun series to do. So,
Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
well, just a couple of months actually. Just
Yeah,
Ginger Coyote asked me to do something fun for Punk Globe, and I thought this would be perfect because everyone wants to, people are the people who are influenced, the people who influence people, what influenced them,
yeah,
and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. So,
sure.
yeah, gonna have a cup of tea.
Well, where do you want to start? I got my coffee.
Nice. We're in here. Just basically, everything for you started with No Means No and for the world. And tell me about how that came about and how you and your brother first heard the music that influenced you and what that was.
Uh, well, it really all kind of started before No Means No, in the sense that my brother's like 8 years older than me, Robbie. Um, so I didn't really, he didn't see me as a human being, and I didn't really know who he was until I was about 16 or 17 years old. So
Right.
that would have been like the late 70s, 70, 78. He moved out, and then he came back, and he brought back, he worked out in Calgary, and he had subsequently kind of got into all the punk rock that was coming out in 77, 76, 77, really, with the Ramones and the stuff. And that really uh, sort of opened his eyes up to a world of music that he was, he grew up in the 60s and 70s, and sort of how that music grew out of the 60s, and punk rock was just kind of like, oh, right, well, this is what I like about rock and roll music.
Hmm.
So uh, so he moved back, but like I say, I was like 8 years younger than him. So I was like starting grade 11, grade 10, grade 11. And went through the school band program, right? That was, how I learned how to play the drums and whatnot, and playing in the jazz band. So I was like totally into like teenage pop rock, mid 70s pop rock, and like big band. I mean, that's what and I was taking some jazz piano lessons and all that sort of stuff. So, which was all awesome.
Yeah.
And but I'd also grown up listening to my older brother and sister's music through the late 60s and early 70s. And the music was kind of something that was always in my life in that respect.
Hmm.
My brother never had any formal training or nothing. He was just I don't know really what exactly turned on the light bulb for him, but he picked up the guitar and started learning how to play it. And then he ended up moving back to Victoria, and as I mentioned at the beginning, brought a TIAC 4-track, which was a reel-to-reel, 10-inch
Yep.
reel-to-reel 4-track. It was like pretty much, standard, industry standard for that, for a 4-track recorder at that time. It was top quality, and he brought it home, and we were just like, oh wow, it was just like, I was like, holy, this is a new toy. And so we just started. He just wanted to start playing music and figuring out how to record, and same here. So we kind of bonded at that point, and um, but I was still, I didn't really hear anything about punk rock at all. And he was like, oh, you got to listen to this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, okay,
Did
you
you
know.
what did you think when you first kind of heard it or you first kind of got into the movement? Like what did you think? Did you think this is
Well,
like
like a lot of fucking musical assholes, I thought these guys don't know how to play. Uh, so because that's the world I was in, the jazz orchestra world. It's all very ego driven um, but with a lot of talent, obviously.
Yes.
And the real musicians don't care about that shit. But as far as the environment in which you're in, it's like, well, how fast can you play? Like in rock and roll, the hierarchy was it's stupid, right? It was all
Yeah.
this petty bullshit
Yeah.
about being the ability to play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have
Well,
you
but
listened to an
you know,
ACDC record? They're not
yeah.
doing anything that complicated.
You're a amazing drummer, right? So it's like you've utilized so much. I remember when I first heard No Means No because I was playing in a band and I was really young and somebody in the band said, "You gotta have verse, chorus, bridge, you gotta do this or you're not gonna be successful." And they were just berating me. And I I was like, well, there's a lot of incredible bands out there that don't, fit that formula. And he was like, yeah, just name one, right? And I said, well, how about No Means No? And he just shut up. And it was the first time I remembered it was like I felt like this glorious moment because it was like the first time I had shut this guy up.
Right.
So
Well, it's certainly, I mean, No Means No was never that far out in the universe as far as arranging and music and the musical styles. But for sure, I mean, that's the thing. It was like there was a lot of rules,
mhm.
and there always has been in music. I mean, at no point in time is music not being, a lot of rules or what you should or can or must do. It's just the way it is. And so eventually he DOA came to Victoria and played up at the university there. And Rob's going, come on, let's go. I want to go see the show. Let's go see the show. And I'm like, okay. And he played the Prisoner in 13 single. And I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool rock and roll. This sounds pretty cool to me. And that was that right that you said, well, what was the turning point for you?
Yeah.
Well, that was the turning point. I mean, seeing DOA live, playing live. I'm just sitting on the side of the stage on a table, a band playing faster than I'd ever heard anybody play in my life. Really not aggressive, but aggressive, if you know what I mean. Not stupid aggressive, just and the place was the rugby team came to troll the show, and so they were just giving Joe a really hard time. So next thing you know, they're almost fighting. And at one point, a beer got thrown at Randy Rampage and busted on his bass, and his
Wow.
hands were cut, and he was playing bleeding and flicking his blood at the and one of the and of course the rugby players thought it would be all cool to spit at the band because that's what you do at a punk concert, right? In 1978 or 79, whatever the fuck it was, with the dish rags, by the way.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and and so I just watched, Joey. Okay, this the lead Lugan in the front. He just, whatever, just wound up and went right into his face and just fucking gobbed as hard as he could right in the guy's face. And then it was like, oh, Chuck Business was up with his drum, Chuck Business, of course, trying to stay as far away from the fray as possible, but shaking his stand around. And Randy was like, oh, blah, blah. It was like, but they actually finished the show. I mean, a real brawl didn't really break out, as I recall, anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm like my, you know,
Yeah.
I'm like 18 years old, going, what the fuck is going on? This is amazing.
Yeah.
And
That was like an aha moment for you.
well, it was, yeah. I mean, this is the energy. I mean, I was just, the energy of music is what attracts me the most. And like big bands can have just tremendous energy,
Amazing.
and that was the that was the gateway
Mhm.
into understanding this music wasn't about the rules of the game. It was, well, don't want to say the game, but it's
Yeah.
it's what
Well,
you
that's a
put
good way
into
to
it.
put it. That's a great way to put it because it's not necessarily a game, but the rules, the standards, like when you talk about jazz, you talk about blues, you talk about rock and roll, there's always been those standards, those rules that kind of go along with that. And so I felt like for me, it was kind of watching, a DOA moment, the same kind of deal for me. It was like, this is insane. Like the energy that that the people, the energy from the audience and the band and the chaos, but it was like a conformed chaos in a certain way, like really, really
Well,
deep,
yeah,
right?
it was the essence of what a rock show is boiled down to, well, I should say it's boiled down to its essence in a way. And it's not like they couldn't play. I mean, TOA was great.
Yeah.
Like I say, Chuck Biscuit was like, holy fuck, this guy's drumming like a lunatic.
Yeah.
And the songs were, whatever. There were the punk rock, pretty straightforward arrangements and whatnot. But
Hmm.
at that point, no one was playing like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was obviously bands coming out in the early '70s, like the real genesis of punk rock, like, well, MC5, for instance, was just like, again, just crazy loud, simple rock, um, and, and the Ramones too, in a way, in that sense. But
Hmm.
for me and for West Coast Canada and for the time, this was all like so fresh and new and great.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant,
And
right?
and it wasn't about how well you could perform. It was about performing. Like you find the people who strictly adhere to and enforce the rules are the people that generally don't have the game to go along with it. You know what I mean? So these bands had it.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I quickly then it was like, well, the floodgates were open, and I was listening to all the music that was coming out of England and the States in the late '70s, early '80s, and seeing lots of great bands coming through Victoria. And my brother and I were inspired, to write more music, and so No Means No then sort of started to form. My brother and I didn't really know any guitar players to play with. So he picked up the bass and said, well, I'll learn how to play the bass. We're going to do this. Then it'll just be the two of us. So,
Hmm.
uh,
So
yeah,
good. It's so crazy
that's
good.
kind
And
of how it all got rolling in around
you know,
1980.
you just get rid of those guitar players. Like they're useless.
Well,
Of Yeah,
Andy, we eventually, I moved, at
course.
that time, we played some shows. We started meeting people out in the scene that I didn't really know. I mean, I had my high school friends and we were all into it, but we didn't know a lot of other people in the city, musicians and stuff. But eventually, of course, very quickly, people started to get to know each other and shows were being put on. And Andy was in a band, The Infamous Scientists, who I went and saw. I was like, oh, this is great. Same thing. They were more pop punk, but Andy was a great. Well, everyone in the band was great. Kev Lee on bass, and the first drummer's name escapes me. Uh, and so I ended up actually drumming for them for very briefly and playing on one EP because we'd become friends. And and then then Robbie and I were like, well, we should get Andy to play with us because he's a great musician, great frontman, good songwriter. Well, great songwriter. He wrote a lot of good
Mhm.
songs. And um, but he was very reluctant because of that. It was like, no, you're a bass and drums band. Like, that's what you do. And I don't want to spoil that aesthetic. And we're like, come on, let's spoil it. Like, that's not what we want to be, right? Like, this is only going to go so far. I want a fucking guitar player in the band. Uh, and someone who really could perform too. Robbie, Robbie was still sort of, what's the he was still sprouting, as they say, I guess. Like
Yeah.
he didn't have any experience playing in front of people, and Andy the same way. He'd gone through school band and all that stuff, and so both him and I were comfortable out playing, and Robbie was too. But he was, just whatever. He was still learning how to be a musician and be in
Mhm.
front of an audience. So Andy was very key in establishing us as a performing band,
Right.
a whole band. So No Means No really became what it is once Andy had joined, and we started gigging outside of Victoria. And so around 1983, 84, the band sort of gelled as what it kind of went on to be.
Hmm.
Uh, so I mean that's kind of where it all came out of. And Andy eventually left the band, and I also subsequently with Andy had started playing with Tom Holliston and the Show Business Giants, and that was completely, utterly, totally different. And that was able to go back into starting tapping in all those musical influences, which I have recently discovered are 1970s television themes. I didn't realize just how influenced I was by fucking television music. Holy
That's
crap.
hilarious.
Yeah, I was like, wow, really?
Kind of
That's
true
yeah,
though,
okay.
right?
And well, whatever. And that band was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And
Awesome band.
yeah, and when Andy left, then the Hanson Brothers kind of this Hanson Brothers have been simmering with Andy and Robbie and I since like about 84, 85. Was in kind of we were No Means No was more intense music, more emotional music, or more I don't know how to describe it.
Curious.
It wasn't pop fun. I mean, some of it was fun. We always kept it fun and
Yeah.
kept but so we were like, oh, we just want to write some Ramon songs, and straight up, okay. So we started doing it, but we just did it for our own fun,
Right.
and I think what really kind of inspired us, we also did the No Means No clones the Ramones cover band back in '84 or
Oh.
something, and just for fun too. It's like, oh, this is great. It'd be great to write some songs like this. So we did, but
Do
nothing
you
really.
still do Hanson Brothers stuff?
I've
Ever?
not now. No,
No.
hung up the skates,
Right.
as they
Okay.
say.
Just checking.
But
Just checking.
yeah. Um, but
Hung up.
uh, but nothing really came of it until basically after we had done some. We had that when we were recording. I think we were recording 0 + 2 = 1, or it might have been the Biafra album.
Okay.
And it probably
Brilliant
was
album.
because Biafra wouldn't show up until like 7 in the evening or something. So we'd be there all day. Well, what do we do? And
Yeah.
I think that's when it was. And we demoed about 6, 7, 8 Hanson Brothers songs, I guess. And then whatever, we just did it. And then Andy left the band, and Greg Workman, who was managing Alternative Tentacles at the time, I don't know how he got the tape. I think probably Laurie, our manager, sent it to him.
Right.
And then he's like, "You guys got to make an album. You got to do this. No Means No is on hiatus. Like, you got to do this."
Yeah.
So that's when we approached Tom Holliston, and I'd already been playing with him. Say, "Hey, let's. Do you want to do the Hanson Brothers?" And so he was totally keen, and he started writing songs, and we sort of beefed up the material, and
That's awesome.
then there you go. That was kind of born. So that kind of born out of the break after Andy left the band. So once we done all that, then we were like, okay, Tom, do you want to try playing in No Means No? Like, Robbie and I didn't want to give up the whole thing, but we didn't really know. Uh, uh, there was the only guitar player we thought could possibly do it would be Ralph Spite, and
I love
that was that.
Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph is amazing, and of course,
Ralph and I wrote an album together. And
oh yeah,
yeah, and it's not, well, he wrote one of the songs on my last, not this album, but the last one. We
yeah.
wrote it together, but we wrote this really ridiculous kind of, you know, in the studio till 3 in the morning, just messing around with stuff. And one day we will finish that album, but it's pretty hilarious. Like, it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Well,
But,
that's
but
yeah.
Ralph is amazing. Ralph is amazing.
Yeah. It would have been a wonderful to work with Ralph. Uh, of course, he's in San Francisco and we're up here, and it's nothing we pursued actively, but that was,
Yeah.
it certainly crossed our mind. But that we were in the state of mind, like, well, we got to find a guitar player.
Hmm.
We're going to keep
Tom
doing.
Hollison, and like you had
So
Ford
yeah, I mean,
here
we're
too.
already
Oh my God.
playing in a band with them. Say, Tom, do you want to do this? Now the music was a little bit beyond him in some ways, technically. He didn't play like Andy at all, and but he worked his ass off. He said, okay. He said, I'll give it a try, and he worked and worked, and we rehearsed, and then so that's why Tom Holliston ended up playing with us.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And
Um,
then so that was like I think in 1993 we went to Australia with DOA, and we thought this is a good way to kind of introduce Tom into the band, to go somewhere where there was no expectations, at least not the expectations that, because Europe had kind of boomed for us in a way, and it was a lot of pressure.
mhm.
So that's the other thing. We went to Australia, and then when we were planning on going to Europe and touring again, that's when Ken Kempster joined as a second drummer, because I had already doubled up drums on recording, and I remember seeing what was it? Was it Tank Hog? Oh, or at least one of those
Ogre, isn't it
ogre
Ogre?
ogre with two drummers. Um,
Yeah. It's always
at
my dream. Two drummers
Yeah,
has always
and
been
I
my
remember going
dream.
like, "Fuck, that's great," Just in passing, it was in the '80s or something. So we thought, oh, let's. Ken had been playing in the show business giants as well, and so let's try double drums. And it wasn't for the whole show, but also we would sort of come back to Europe as something not. It's like, okay, who's the new Andy, right?
Yeah.
And just be different.
Hmm.
So that's what we
Fantastic.
did, and so we became a four-piece for about 3 years, and
Yeah,
yeah,
wonderful lineup. I remember seeing some of that and just incredible. Like I've always loved the two drummer things. Ministry did it, a bunch of, lots of people
yeah,
have done
yeah.
that. And you're just like, yes, like this is, the power that comes and even, because it's like two guitar players, like, yeah, there's two guitar players. Want to have two drummers. You can play
Well, yeah, and of
off of
course,
each other and
drum ensemble is again. It's like, yeah, like this is not this is totally natural for me because that's what I did as I growing up and playing in school bands and whatnot. And it's like, and now with Dead Bob, it's awesome because I get to go back and do it all,
yeah.
everything. I
Well,
got
that's
a
what I
horn,
want to talk about.
Tom, yeah,
Yeah.
Tom and Chris, or I mean Ford and Christy is a great trumpet player, awesome trumpet player, awesome guitar player, great singer. She's such a presence on stage, and Ford took it upon himself to what he was in school as well, in school band, and he played French horn. So and his father was a band leader, teacher whose instruments was trombone. So he said, "Okay, I'll get a trombone," and because had been always dabbling with horns and stuff, and so now it's like, oh, great. Well, this is awesome. I can actually incorporate a horn section into the music and into the live thing, and then of course Ford plays the keyboards, and Byron is a great drummer as well as a guitar player. So now we have that chance to really experiment with some more ensemble stuff.
Yeah,
So
so
bringing in, it's not so much double drums, but we have the one song, "One of You," that has two snare drums, and we now have a new song that that Ford is going to play the snare drum on because he's also, he's just a natural musician. He's not really a drummer, so to speak, but he has drummed. I think he did all the drumming for what album? Myconium, I think he did all his own drumming.
he's
So these
so talented.
yeah, so talented. So all these multi instrumental musicians, um, and Colin McRae too, the bass player. He was the other drummer in another double drum band that I was playing with in Powell River with Craig Vishak from the Pigment Vehicle,
Oh my God.
and so Colin was on the other drums, and he knows how to drum too.
Right.
So we this Dead Bob now has this opportunity to to really expand the how the music works in
Mhm.
these more ensemble situations. We're not quite at orchestra, but we're awfully fucking close. That's where I draw the line. And uh,
Yeah, Dead Bob is kind of like all of the things that you've done. Now you're able to do, you able to pull it together and to do so much with, multi instruments and multi musician, like it's so cool. It's such a really cool lineup. I know when I
oh,
got to see a little
it's
bit
an
of it.
amazing lineup, and I'm super fortunate to know all these people and call them my friends, and that they're excited to play this music. So, and when you talk about punk rock and what punk rock means, is that it's like, well, really, in a sense, Dead Bob is kind of more like a prog rock band, really. But to me, it's not. It's all punk rock, and all it is it's like I'm not doing anything different. I'm just doing something other. I'm doing something different with what I'm not doing anything different.
But
Hard
but
to
like
say.
but like you seeing DOA for the first time, it's kind of it's punk rock to me is it's not a form or three chords or this or that or it's a vibe. It's a movement. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
feeling, right? And Dead Bob still has that punk rock vibe feeling movement because you're breaking through doing stuff that because you want to, right? Not because it
Well,
fits
yeah, and
into a
it's
box.
loud. It's full of energy, and but I think mainly it's authentic.
Hmm.
Um, like that's the thing about punk rock. Although there was, the Sex Pistols were basically a poser band, but it's like they're you know, especially out of California, American punk rock was very authentic.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, punk rock has always been a fashion right from the get go, but and the fashion side of things, like no means no. It's like we never had mohawks or tattoos or whatever. That was all okay, whatever.
Yeah.
That's not what's important to me.
Hmm.
What's important to me is the energy and the authenticity of the music, and uh, that's what I just found about punk rock. It was like lots of energy, but it was honest energy. It
Hmm.
wasn't and it was not. I mean, there was violent bands, but generally not. Right? The people would go to the show like, "Fuck!" It's like a fight had broken out. Well, no, they're not fighting,
Yeah.
and um, uh, whereas you go to a rock and roll show or a fucking country western show, they are fighting.
Yeah. And and a lot of people that I've interviewed, like when I ask about what punk rock means, the word do it yourself, DIY,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
comes up a lot. And I
and
noticed that,
that's
with you guys too.
that's the authenticity of what you're witnessing is people that are just doing not all of it. You can't do all of it yourself.
Yeah.
Um, but especially when you get to a touring level and you need support, but you're also working with people who are also that's their mentality, right? And
But yeah, but
they have to make a dollar, but they're not
yeah.
just looking you as a commodity.
Yeah. But that's the base of it is it's like, okay, well, let's just, find this. We just want to do this. And, I think that, when we were younger and postering and doing it all ourselves and, that crazy kind of, that kind of mentality is that for me, it's like, well, it's different than pop culture. It's different than that. It is a community of people that are willing to help each other. Like even Dead Bob is a great example of that. All of these musicians that you admire and respect and care for, and they're all like, yeah, I want to be a part of this because it is a sense of community. And I think that that's
Yeah, yeah.
to me a punk rock, what punk rock kind of means. And Dead Bob's a great example of that. Like it's a great example of going to a show and you're like, oh, there's Ford Pier. Oh, there's John Wright. Oh my, this is amazing, right? And just you guys not fitting in that box. I don't know. I just
Well,
I love it.
yeah, I'm very much used to not fitting into boxes,
Hmm.
but the world of punk rock as it sort of sprung out of the late '70s was the milieu in which I was most comfortable in, and and the music was going to be accepted. Uh, um, in the we could never have done what we did, trying to be fucking pop stars or rock stars, or
Hmm.
it just doesn't work that way. Not There's nothing wrong with pop music. I love pop music.
Yeah.
Well, not all pop music, but I like music that's just kind of pop. I write it all the fucking time. Um, but it's the attitude that people have when you walk into a building, the people you work with, the clubs you're in. Uh, so all of that is in it. Like doing Dead Bob was like, am I still able to do it? I'm 63. Can I still play the drums the way that's the way I want to play? I got to be able to play that way. Um, if I can't play that way, then I would just like to move in behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Um, but it's also, is there still a world out there that's like this? The
Hmm.
world has changed dramatically, but the DIY thing is kind of it's still all there. Not necessarily even with punk rockers, but the whole way people have developed themselves online and the recording. I'm recording all this shit in my fucking workshop on a
Hmm.
computer. Not possible in the 80s or 90s. Like you had to go. You had to have the gatekeepers. You had to get through into the studios. You had to pay the money. You had to do this in order to access technology. Digital changed all that, and certainly social media has changed how you as an individual can control your own reach. Right? I mean, obviously, it's still a mixed bag. Like I said earlier, you can't do it all on your own. But it is kind of interesting where music is at now. In that, I mean, it's kind of so diffuse and it's so crowded. For fuck's sakes, trying to it's like COVID was, of course, completely knocked the socks out of everything, um, and there's just every fucking band in the world. The one thing that does annoy me about punk rock is just the whole sort of everyone's coming out of the woodwork to relive the glory days, and it's like, which
Yeah.
is fine, it's not like I have some sort of grudge or it's fine, whatever. People want to play and have fun, but holy moly, it's just fucking crowded.
Yeah, I think that the internet and the way that things have evolved over the years have been incredibly great for, new musicians, but also incredibly the amount of crap that's out there, and just with
Oh,
these influencers and all this kind of stuff, it's a different world, like you say, but at the same time, we can make, a music video with our phone, or we can
yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah,
there's things we can do that
yeah.
that tool of do it yourself is what I kind of mean. Like, of course, when you got a tour, when you're doing different things, you can't do everything yourself, but you can take the reins more today than you could. Like when I was talking to M. Rogers, who did, a bunch of videos, then they were like, 16 millimeter, you had three
Oh yeah,
minutes, it cost $100.
I know, I know.
It's amazing.
I mean, there's this. It's everything is always there's always two sides, and the knife cuts both ways in a way. Is like, yeah, you are like you say, like you can be in control of your own brand, shall we
Mhm.
say, for lack of a better term, and promote yourself, and you have the tools that kind of levels the playing ground to some degree. But those gatekeepers also kept a lot of the shit out of it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Like
so true.
in the 70s, a lot of great stuff came out because people who were the gatekeepers had good taste, or they
Hmm.
they loved good music, or they had an idea themselves,
Yeah.
and a lot of the bullshit just never ended up. And now, of course, anybody can put themselves out there, and if they're no good, well, they're no good, and there they are, right?
Yeah. I think that
Right.
there's a lot
So
of
it goes
crap
both
out
ways.
there.
I mean, not that I ever want to go backwards. I never want to go backwards. Um, but yeah, I mean, the environment changes, but the more, as they say, things change, they stay the same. So
This is true. And it's just it's there's more access to good stuff out there too. Like
Yeah,
easier
that's
to
the other
find a
positive
cool
thing.
band from Brazil, or whatever, right? It's cool to do that. Like when bands would go on tour, pardon? Sorry.
100%.
Yeah. When bands would go on tour before, if you missed them, you couldn't get that album or you couldn't get it and you're like,
No.
so now at least there's a way to be able to reach out to people like, having fans in
Oh,
places that you've
totally,
never been,
totally,
right? So
totally.
what's going on for Dead Bob now? Like, tell me about what's
Uh,
happening right now and what you guys are planning on doing in the next while.
well, uh, ostensibly next week we're crossing the border into the United States. Play down, start just a 2 week jaunt down to California. If all goes well, fingers crossed that everything works. It's now, it's nerve wracking, like
Mm-hmm.
waiting for paperwork and what's the
Yeah.
border going to be like. And I mean, it's not that it's really that different. Um, but it's just now it's on the top of everyone's mind. Actually, a friend of mine was saying um, that actually going down to the States right now, he said, it's not a problem at all. In fact, it was like super easy and great, and they were friendly and blah, blah, blah. He said, but coming back, the Canadians were insane because now they're all on fentanyl alert, right? Like
Oh, right.
so it's way more intense coming home, which is
Wow.
fine by me because whatever, we'll show up if they want to search the van, go ahead. There's
Yeah,
nothing
go ahead.
there.
Yeah, of course.
It's just a big hassle. But it was just funny. He says, yeah, it's not going to the States that's a problem. It's coming home.
I think that because of the fact that everyone just stopped going to the States, like there was some, if they didn't have to, they didn't.
Yeah,
Used to, I live on the border and I right now, and I just, I used to pop over and grab some stuff or go for lunch or met cool Mexican restaurants in Bellingham or whatever.
yeah.
And and of course go to San Francisco and Los Angeles all the time, but I just stopped, I just stopped doing it and I had some stuff planned and a lot of people, that's what a lot of
Well,
people
yes,
did,
everyone's
right?
hit the pause button. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
just to see.
And but like whatever. It's
So you guys are
it,
going
the
to do
borders are borders. They've never really changed that much.
uh,
Uh, but anyway, so that's what we're gonna. Hopefully all goes well.
mhm.
We're down in Richland next Friday night playing. And then we come home and we're not doing too much. We're doing a smattering of shows over the summer. But we finally found that's the other thing. I thought Europe would be the easy part, but it's been a tough nut to get booked over there.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I was a little surprised, not not trying to stroke my ego, but I mean, NoMeansNo did really well,
Hmm.
um, and I thought, well, no, I mean, you're going to be playing smaller rooms, of course, but yeah, it's been a struggle finding someone to book the tour because the old guard is not there. I mean, they're there, and some people are still active, some people aren't. A lot of people, COVID, just kind of they got out of the business during
Yeah,
COVID.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, they had to move on to something else, and
Hmm.
they did, and they didn't go back. And so, sort of on the booking end of things and club end of things, there's more people who don't really know a lot about No Means No, or at least haven't had any direct contact with
Yeah,
us or worked with us, or maybe didn't even see us. There's a reputation, but it's not like there's no gold key for me.
right.
So, but it's come together. We found a nice fellow who actually lives in Calgary, plays in a band called Belvedere,
Okay.
named Steve
Oh,
Rawls, and he books. That's his other gig. He plays in that band and books a bunch of bands. And so he's taken upon himself to book our tour, which is great. He's working on it right now. We're
fan-
announcing next Tuesday. We announce the tour with not all the dates. There's some gaps, but we got to announce it, and then hopefully that'll start generating
yeah,
some
fantastic.
interest and getting some
When is
gaps filled
that?
up.
When will that be?
So that starts in Germany in the beginning of September. September 9th is our first show.
Okay, cool.
So that's kind of the only other big. We'll be there for 6 weeks, so it's a big tour, and so that's the other kind of big thing this year. And we
That's-
have another album. We just got to put it out.
Okay. Right on. Do you know when that might be?
Don't know when that might be, but I can't linger too much longer. You know, Lifelike is now 2 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
I mean, and
So
even when I released that, there was still no band uh, together, or there wasn't really an idea of playing music live still at that point. But my other endeavor had tanked, so I found myself, well, I got an album and I know how to drum, so
yeah.
I got to go back to music.
And it's fantastic. It's a great album. It's
Thank
really
you.
good. I really like it. Heard it a little while ago and I was like, wow, this is so good. Like they just, like John really, really fucking did it.
Well, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Uh, Alternative Tentacles is releasing a single. Should be out now, I guess, or I'm hopefully going to have some for this tour. And
Is
which
that like a seven
after
inch?
this, actually, after this chat we're having, I gotta say, hey, are we going to get some shipped up? And I realized, fuck, it's like a week away. Damn it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's on me. I'm just like, I'm doing way more with Dead Bob than my duties called for in No Means No.
Hmm.
So I find myself a little bit scattered, but um, and we got another single that we're just putting together now for Europe. There's a Polish Antenna Kurzyku. I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. Sorry, Eric. Uh, uh, and um, he released in Poland some vinyl and some CDs of Lifelike, and so he's going to do a single too, and
Great.
it mainly to for us to take on tour.
Wonderful.
So we'll do that independently. So we have some new music coming out, and just released our first show in Powell River back in 23 was multi-track recorded and filmed. Finally
Oh,
cut a video of the song Lifelike, a live cut, and that turned out really well. So we're trying to get some new stuff out there,
yeah.
and then next year hopefully um, a couple more trips to Europe because we can't do it all in one. So yeah,
Hmm.
we're busy, and hopefully everything keeps going well. And
Fantastic.
mhm.
Yeah, this is so great. It's really awesome to chat with you and to hear what you're doing and for the Punk Globe audience out there because they want to know.
Right, yeah. Well, you could let the punkers know that prog rock, that's what everyone's into now. Trust me.
Trust him. Trust him. He knows. Trust me. No, that album is really good. I really love that album. It's diverse and it's powerful and yeah, it's great. So, if we can help get the word out, then
Oh yeah,
do
thank
it.
you, thank
Right?
you. And the next one is even going to be a little crazier. And that's as I was saying earlier. Now I can. All right, well, I can just go and I'll go back and tap into everything that I've
Mhm.
done for the last 50 years.
That's fantastic. It's really good. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again one day. And I missed you
Yeah.
last time. I wasn't here. Ralph was like, "Are you coming to the show?" I was like,
Oh man, yeah, that was an playing with Victims Family again, and of course Invasives, one of the
"Wow."
Invasives. I've done a lot. Byron drummed in Hanson Brothers for a couple of tours, and I've co-written stuff with him in the past. And so yeah, that show was it was so much fun, that lineup, and
Yeah. Victims family
great
are
Victims
amazing.
Family. Just so great to see them again, and Tim hasn't. Well, none of them have missed a beat really. So
Yeah, they're great. And Ralph's he's on fire. Like whatever Ralph does, Freak Accident, or Play with Jello,
yeah.
or whatever, like he's just on fire. Like that's the type of person he is, right? So it's great. And I was really looking forward to seeing that, but I was traveling, so I
Oh dear.
missed it.
Yeah.
Oh well, I tried.
Oh
I was like,
well. Oh
no.
well. We're trying to get an all ages show in Vancouver. Uh,
Okay, that'll be great.
in August. We're playing a festival up here in Powell River on Saturday, August 23rd.
Okay.
which will be fun. So we thought it would be nice to play the Friday, put two
Yeah.
shows together. It'd be a little bit of a just a little bit of a warm up for us to go to Europe to get a couple of
Yeah.
shows in.
Wow.
We're playing. I don't know the name of it, but it's a tattoo festival in Kelowna in the mid-July, July 19th. So it's kind of a smattering of shows.
Hmm.
But yeah, we're going to try to get an all ages show in Vancouver. It's great to play at the Rickshaw. For all those people listening, you may not know what these places are, uh, but I think we will. I think we'll revisit the Rickshaw and do a show probably in the beginning of next year.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, for sure.
But hopefully an all ages show in Vancouver in August.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, awesome.
Yeah,
Good luck with everything. Good luck with the tour.
thank you.
And it was so awesome chatting with you. And we'll talk to you again, I'm sure, one day when things are rolling more all over the place for the next album. Who knows, right?
Yeah, 100%, hundred
But
percent.
but yeah, so have an awesome tour and be safe going into the States.
Oh, we'll be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, of course you will. It'll be a piece of cake for you
Yeah,
guys. So you guys are awesome. Okay, well have a great day and thank you again
thanks.
for being on here. It's
Yeah, thank you,
wonderful
thank
to
you.
chat with you again. So
All right, well, we'll see you down the road.
we shall. Bye.